All right, everybody, we'd like to welcome you out to Robbins Podcast number 6. Different location, same people, but we do want to introduce a special guest we have with us today. We just spent a week training with all of our departments and all of our people with Jasen Laws from BDR, which stands for Business Development Resources. And he's just spent the week kind of coaching us and training us, giving us tips, and I would say giving us a kickstart off to 2024 on how we can better serve the community.
I think we should also welcome Michelle. This is her first podcast. She's super excited. So So she's the face we always see, but not in a podcast. So welcome to her. Should be fun.
Glad to be here.
I will say it does feel different doing it different too without the headphones on this time, I guess.
Yeah.
So
And the mic right
yeah,
there.
and the mic. Yep. Yeah. Totally different. So, I guess I'll kick it off. Just kind of a question for Jasen. What do you think about the importance of recruiting the next generation?
Yeah. Well, thank y'all for having me on here, by the way. So it's been a good week. I appreciate y'all having me out this year. I guess this is my third year being out here with y'all. So it's been a blast. So my read on that and what we've been seeing with the younger generation is just understanding what they're looking for, right? Things have changed. There's no doubt about that. It's a different world out there, but it's not that it's any worse or any better. It's just understanding what they're looking for, right? So what we really see, what the studies are showing is just the younger generation wants to be a part of something. They do. They want to be a part of something. They want to go somewhere to work that's meaningful to them. That's active in the community, that has a culture, like a family. And they want that, but it's kind of funny because they want that when they go to work, but they also don't view their career as their identity like we used to. I'm a Gen Xer. I'm kind of on the younger end of that. And it was common for us to really view our career as part of our identity. So it's like this kind of funny thing we see with the younger generation where they don't really want to be so much of their identity, but yet they want to be a part of something. So it's a little funny in that way, but they want to be able to show up, be in a good place, and have a good career, but then when they leave, they want to be able to go and live their lives, right? And not be consumed with it. So I think, the more you understand that and try to lay things out to embrace that, I think the more successful you'll be. And I think that as far as it's a working industry, hands-on, hardworking industry. From my experience, they'll work. I mean, the younger generation, there's been people say that, that they don't necessarily want to work the same. And it may not be the same, but they will work. I have several clients throughout the country that have very successful service teams and install teams with very young recruits. So it's just a little different.
So do you think when it comes to recruiting, the younger generation, and we try to, we're trying to make our way into high schools and things of that nature, do you think that we have to approach it from a different angle?
I think a little bit. Like I said, I think one of the things that they really want, and it's really because it's maybe not even been them as much as just the culture of careers and things throughout the last maybe 15, 20 years, is I do believe approaching it and being able to lay out a path for them so that they can see where they're going. Our industry the culture of it for many years has always been, hey, come in and work hard and you'll get somewhere. And it's kind of open-ended. We don't really have a sense of direction. So they definitely, if you approach them with a sense of direction, I know you're working on, a career paths you're putting together for your team all throughout the business. I believe that's a big piece that they're looking for. They don't really want that open-ended agreement to where they're just going to come in and not real sure where to go, right? They want to know steps of, hey, I'm going to come in as an apprentice, and then if I do this and this, I'm going to go to this level. If I do this and this, I want to go to this level. So I think those career paths are going to be big for us, in the coming years. There's speculation on that, right? Because just this generation has really come up with electronics and all these things. If you really look at the culture of that stuff, everything kind of has these clear laid out paths. So it's just kind of what they've gotten used to. So the better you can lay that out and show them where they can go, that, and they, to be honest, they want to progress more rapidly than we did. They just do. They want to move forward. And if you can give them a clear path, the reality is they'll do the work you want them to do as long as they know they can go somewhere.
I think one thing that stood out to me this week from everything we talked about was, as a company, we try hard to make our experience with our clients and our customers really positive, and we try to build a culture of that, of, giving an excellent service, if you will. But I don't know that we've been super good at communicating that to the team. Yeah. The team also has to understand that they'll benefit from working at Robbins as well, and their experience can be similar to the customers of having that same quality service. Just because you're an employee or a client doesn't mean you're different. You should still have that quality experience there.
Absolutely. And think about what we talked about on Tuesday when we were kicking things off. I'd mentioned that with you all, the management team here, that your role as leaders is to serve them, right? And if you have that same servant culture with them, that you want them to deliver to your clients out in the community, right? To serve that client, then that's going to be the best culture you can possibly have. Because if you have their back, they're going to be more comfortable going out and actually representing you to your clients.
So do you know what the average age of a technician is in the field right now?
Right now, the last number I heard nationwide, it's come down a little bit. It's creeping down, but it's somewhere right around 48 or 50. So it's still pretty high. It is. I mean, it's on up there for the industry. It's migrating down because we do have a lot of younger ones coming in. But there's this funny thing happening that we've seen some research on. I call it they're dipping their toe in, right? So it's been moving slowly, but it's what we're seeing is the younger generation. By younger generation, let's say maybe people under 30, right? They come into the industry either maybe right out of high school or even maybe out of a trade school, and they're only staying with us about 1 to 2 years, and they're leaving. And by leaving, they're not going to another company. A lot of times they're going to another industry. And that's where I do feel like the career paths, I think that's one of the pieces we've been missing, because they come here and they work hard because it's a hardworking industry, which we all love, right? We wear it like a badge of honor. And they may even be okay with that part, but they stall out because they're so unsure of where they're going. They're coming in, they're working so hard, but where does that take me? Where's my future, right? So I think what'll help move that further down, because we need it to come down. We need to get it down, around 30 years old or so as an average, because we're going to have to accept that kind of 20 to 40 year range, 40-year-old range to really move forward as an industry.
Yeah, we're not the only trade that suffers from this, right? I mean, it's across the board. But we've kind of bumped our heads against the wall 4 or 5 times trying to figure out what is it that we got to do. And I think it was last year after we had you, we had the management team. We were out of town, and they took a hold of this career path thing and really started driving that. And so we finally, we spent about a year putting it together and finally rolled it out. But I think, as us, we agree that's probably the missing piece, right? I mean, I think we do a pretty decent job of attracting some of these younger guys, but that retention after that year to 2 years, right? I mean, trying to get somebody to make it through that first year, that's a learning curve, right? I mean, you're either freezing to death in the wintertime or you're cooking during the summertime, and just helping them understanding that physical aspect of it, right? Along with all the training, the technical stuff that we try to provide them. Physical alone, sometimes it's just, yes, sir. That's not a party that I want to be at,
It's
what I mean?
tough.
But if we can bridge that gap to show them where that 4 or 5 year plan puts them, where they can start see that I can meet goals, I can buy a house, I can do some of this stuff that I want to do, and this is a path to get there. So, I mean, wahoo to the management team that they're just like, we got to fix this. We got to keep these guys and attract the right ones and keep them here.
Well, while you and Jason were talking, I had the thought that that's how our minds are trained. I was thinking about phones, and we won't mention any certain brand of phone, but just phones in general, right? You buy the next generation of phone, and 2 days later there's an advertisement for the next generation that's coming out 9 or 10 months or a year down the road. Our minds are programmed to, we may have something right now, but we're already looking forward to maybe the next thing that's coming out. And it's just all around us all the time of what's the next step.
I think that has a lot to do with it, kind of like what you were saying a second ago, Jason. I think the newer generation, they want to excel right now. They want answers right now. They want results right now. They want everything right now. And I think a lot of people has said that comes to having the internet in your hand at all times.
I believe it does.
Any result that you want in the whole world, I mean, you can get it in a split second. Yeah,
exactly.
So I think that's where the career path really helps. Is they may not be able to get the results right now, but they see what it takes to get it, and it's not just it's not subjective, right? It's all measurable that way. So.
And the way it's laid out where you can check things off, I mean, they can get a level of immediate gratification, especially if you meet with them regularly and do reviews with them and have conversations. But think about it, it seems small, but how good does it feel? Michelle, if you've got a checklist, right, and you're checking stuff off.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, all of us, right? We check these things off. As we're checking things off, that feels pretty good, right? It feels like an accomplishment, even sometimes if it seems small. Well, see, the way this is laid out, right, is they accomplish a task and really become proficient. You check that off and you sign it off. And if you go the next step and kind of make a big deal out of it, that's an accomplishment. They're making those steps forward regularly. Without it, how do they measure their success? How do they really measure that they're moving forward, other than honestly just general feedback around each other? But that's kind of mixed, right? So it made sense to me. It really did. Y'all know my story. I was in the military, and that's how the military does it. They bring people in and they put them on a career path immediately. And there's a laid out system of progression within that, and exactly what it's going to take to get to that next level.
I think a lot of times we talk about the technicians, the installers and stuff like that, but even in the career path, Michelle built one for the office, right? There's a whole support staff that we want to retain those as well. We don't want to go through office personnel because it's such a learning curve on trying to get that. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that, but across the board, it's trying to attract field, office, whatever personnel it is. It's a different way than what we used to do it 15, 20 years ago, for sure.
And the thing in our industry too, the office, and if Michelle can talk to this as well, the hard thing about our industry is a lot of people out there may be in more of an office environment or, administrative environment. How do they even know that they have an opportunity in an industry like ours? They don't really know that there's opportunity within our office structure, right? So that's one thing I talk to clients a lot about is you really kind of look around, even just putting ads out for people when you are recruiting. If somebody sees HVAC company, what do they need me for? They don't understand what we do. And there's a lot of administrative that goes into this to really get out and get a service technician or an installer out to serve a client. There's a lot of moving parts, right? So we need good people there too.
Yeah, it was kind of fun to watch our team be so engaged, and really participate during the training. And after one of the discussions, I told our office dispatcher, I said, you need to put this down in your training log because you just went through an hour of equipment training. That's what we talked all about that. So why would we want our office people to know about equipment? Well, we deal with that on the phone, even understanding what a customer is saying. There's so much there that we can do to be well-rounded. So we've included equipment training in some of the office side, and they love it. We soak it up in the office because then it makes sense. All these terms that we're hearing start sinking in and ringing a bell, and then it becomes fun. That's what I like about the career path. You learn, there's a path, you can really expand your mind, and then it becomes fun. I love heating and air conditioning. It's the most cool industry ever. I never want to go anywhere else.
Well, I think it's fun. There's times where Michelle's like, hey, our office staff needs to do a ride along, right? Whether they're going with an install crew or they go look at a new construction home and just see what it is that we do, and what it looks like. What if somebody's calling in and saying something, they need to know just something to put that together with. I've done ride alongs with the office going on a service call, right? We've done some of that. So I think at the end of the day, it's not just the technicians that make our company, for sure. I think it's the whole package. Everybody on the support side, the management, all the stuff that they do, the whole 9 yards. If we can't make all that fit together, we talk about a system all the time. What makes a system? It's not the furnace or the air conditioner. It's the whole package.
It's absolutely
so.
Well, the more we know, the more we get to help the people we serve. Because I've been in the position where Steve's doing something. He's like, "Hey, run to Home Depot and get this, this, and this," and I show up. I'm like, okay. I don't know what he's talking about. And even if an associate asks me for help, I'm like, I don't even know what I'm talking about. So sometimes our clients are in the same boat. They call us like, well, my heater's not working. I don't exactly know how to describe, but the more we know, we can connect and help them, understand each other and solve their problems. So it's really cool to have all the knowledge and be well-rounded.
I love it. Y'all remember that phrase I said earlier this week, right? You're talking about it's not just the technicians, not just the installers, but they tend to be the face, right? Because they're the ones in the home. But that phrase we talked about earlier this week, right? Our structure allows the client to see our culture, right? So that support staff behind the scenes, we know there's a lot going on, right? When somebody is buying a new heating and air conditioning system, there's all of these moving parts that are happening in the warehouse and with distribution and all these things going on they don't see. Then magically, these two people show up to their house and do this job. So that structure, and we don't necessarily want them to see it necessarily, right? Because if they're seeing that, then maybe something's not moving as well as we want it to. So there's a lot of work that goes into that with the office and being knowledgeable so that we can deliver and go out and serve our clients to a level to where they don't really have to know that all that's going on, right? But it takes a lot of people. I mean, these days, a lot of companies are really close to one-to-one as far as support team members in the office supporting the team, management like you all as well, and field team members, because that's what it really takes to really go out and serve your clients well. So a lot of clients don't understand that. There's a lot that goes into it.
One thing for Michelle is, we've talked a lot about this week, of the aspect of serving to people, not selling, serving people but not selling people, or selling to people, right? And so I've always been impressed with Michelle because I think she has a huge servant's heart and does a lot for everybody around her. So maybe you can highlight where that comes from, what things maybe inspired you in your life or kind of brought that about where you have that servant's mentality.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. It really comes back to my parents being raised that way. We would volunteer to help clean our church, but we wouldn't just show up and help clean. They would go get donuts and bring for everybody that also came. So just that extra, we had to leave the house 30 minutes early so we could go to the donut shop so we could show up, and just that little bit. We had service projects of cleaning up the street we lived on growing up, but also seeing the community around us. Someone saw us cleaning up the street and then they showed up with lemonade. Like, here, it's hot outside. I'm bringing you lemonade while you're cleaning up the street. So, first and foremost, my parents, but secondly, the community that we live in. We live in an awesome place. I mean, we all know we have the best customers. So if your clients need to know, we have the best customers in Warrington. But there's been a lot of community hardships where I've been able to see the community come in and really just be amazing, give their time, give, food, anything that they can do to help. I've seen that in my own family. I've seen that with neighbors and friends. So I've grown up in a really good place, good family, and a good community that sparks that. And it feels good. I love giving to people, probably to a fault. I think I kind of make people uncomfortable sometimes. But it's awesome. And it really seems like the more I give, the more comes. And so it's just this cool flow, like a heartbeat, like the more comes in, the more goes out. And so then it's cool. I get to just be this little cogwheel of anything I have. I just want to give it away because it's more fun.
One thing I'll tell you on that from outside observation, being here this week, on all these things we're talking about, right? We're talking about this career path, that just natural culture of serving and that servant's heart. Just the outside observation, y'all have a phenomenal culture here. You just do, and y'all should be proud of it. You've worked really hard for it. So, adding that additional piece with the career paths in the office and everywhere, I can't help but believe it's going to move you forward, because once people find you and the culture that you all have, because you all have that. When you have that, Michelle, it's infectious. It goes to everyone else, and I can see it through your entire company. From an outside perspective, looking in and working with your whole team. Everybody, nobody was nervous about me being here. Everyone come to me one at a time and introduce themselves, and everyone's polite. So your culture is off the charts. Your culture is extremely strong. It's just, putting those career paths together, getting really tedious to where when you bring them in, they can actually take advantage of it. You take both of those pieces, I don't know that you can go wrong.
And I think we've talked about that before, kind of the rigorous process that we go through for our hiring process is just, it's insane. Some people it's funny seeing, because we have our 3-step interview process, and sometimes it gets a little more drawn out because we try to make sure we cover every basis we can. And a lot of people don't know this, but what we look for is not that not that how much you know or how you will do this or how you will do that. It's how you're going to fit in at the end of the day, I think is the hardest part to find. Like, hey, will this guy fit in? We're looking at him for the install department. We're looking at him for the service department. Will they fit in that culture of guys that we've worked so hard to create? And I think a lot of people don't realize that. They just think, hey, like, who's the best candidate, when realistically in the, behind the scenes, we don't, it's not really all about that. So.
Well, I think that fits into to our purpose is exceeding expectations by raising the bar. And it comes back to this, naturally, if you fit in and kind of have that servant heart and, you can kind of mold into that culture, our whole business can benefit the entire area, the whole region, just by setting that example, if you will, that, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to benefit lives. We're going to benefit our clients, and people that naturally, are attracted to that fit in really well. So part of it is that we got to reach our purpose. So we got to have the right people on our team.
Well, Drew, you've been quiet. I don't want you to feel left out. You gotta wake up.
I'm just absorbing it all in, man.
You gotta do something here.
I'm absorbing it. No, I was going to ask you, Jason, like, from when you started your business, and even for Steve and Michelle, how have you noticed, like, from hiring from the different generations? And I'm by no means I'm 40 years old, and I remember being raised where you have to sell yourself to where you're going, right? Whatever job you go to, right? I remember going to different jobs in a suit, you know what I mean? Just trying to, at that point I was clean shaven, look like you guys. I was nuts, right? But you had to sell yourself, where almost it seems like there's kind of a transition. So I'm interested to hear both you and Steve's opinion, right? To where it seems like it's a 50-50, where we're trying to sell ourselves as well as them trying to sell them to us. So how have you see that transition, and kind of what's both good for the business as far as getting people to come into our doors and make it attractive, as well as for them?
Go first.
I think there was a point in time that if you could fog a mirror, you got a job.
Drew,
right?
That's how you got here.
Right. The industry is so underserved, right? I mean, there's just not enough people out there, right? And I think don't get me wrong, there's still some companies that do that, right? And for what we're looking for, trying to do that, I think we've kind of hit the nail on the head on that. Is we're looking for a culture fit. And so obviously when we do our hiring process, people, they think we're nuts, right? Because, hey, you're just a heating and air conditioning company. Why would you do 3 interviews? Right? We're looking for that. And not only when that job offer comes, we want that individual to be as excited as we are to come on board, right? And that's kind of what we're looking for. So essentially there's some of us selling us and selling our brand and selling our culture and seeing if they are comfortable with that, right? And at the same time, they've got to turn around and they got to sell that to us, because you are alive, you showed up, but it doesn't mean that you're automatically going to have a position on our team. So I think at the end of the day, that's kind of, from what I've seen, being in the industry for 25, 26 years now, of when I first got in, it was crazy. Anybody that called themselves a technician, right? I was like, okay, all right. And I learned some stuff from some people that I had to unlearn. Yep. Because it was just not correct principles on how stuff works, and so a lot of that is just, investing in yourself and in the industry, trying to figure out the right processes to do stuff. But I really do think there's still some companies out there that are struggling so hard to find workers, because the work is there, that they just got to put bodies in the trucks. And unfortunately, I think the clients and the customers pay for that, right? It's a bad deal, but.
I'm gonna go a little different direction with that answer, right? So in my life, seeing this throughout the years, what I see things as now, and I think you're right, Drew, I think it really is a bit more 50-50 right now. But here's the thing, I think we need to try to keep it that way, because I think a healthy relationship between an employer and an employee should be 50-50. If you really think about it, right? We need to be taking care of each other. In times where it's been, like you said, you're out begging for a job, the employer has a little bit more control over things then. And that can go good, it can go bad, depending on the culture of that employer. When it's been the other way around, like the last several years we've dealt with, where it's been really difficult, where we needed people so bad to where they kind of have a little bit more control of the relationship. And that imbalance is not good for either one, right? It's just not. I've always viewed employing somebody as just a partnership. It's a partnership. And I think we should always try to maintain a bit of both sides, that they should sell themselves to us a little bit. We should sell ourselves to them a little bit. And when we're selling ourselves to each other, what we're really trying to do is make sure that we really understand whether or not this relationship is meant for both of us, because it's an important thing. And I want to make sure that that person is making the right choice for themselves coming to work for me, and that I have what they're actually looking for, because I don't want them to come in and not be able to either pay their bills or, not really enjoy what they're doing. That's not good for either one of us, right? So I think we're best if we can as a society to try to maintain a roughly 50-50, because that is the best, I think, relationship that we can have, because everybody's winning in that. There's no one who has a little bit more leverage over the other that's unhealthy, right? So, but it definitely has changed. It's changed a lot. And I started in this in early 90s, and it's definitely been, crazy over the past 30 years of my career, how much it's shifted. But if we've gotten to this point, it'd be nice if we could keep it here, because they really need to understand what they're getting into, at least to some degree. And we need to understand who we're getting.
So during this last year while we worked on this career path, I had one of my very best friends call me, and I think he was probably inspired to call me, and I think I shared it with everybody. But have you ever read the book Leadership and Self-Deception?
I've not.
It's a good one. So he recommended that book to me, and it was like I said, it was right in the middle of this process of trying to get this career path in place, and it really takes the concept of looking at people through the eyes of who they can become and their true potential, and not just looking at people as objects to help you get where you're trying to go. And I just felt like it was optimal timing that he called and recommended that book to me, and I read it, and there's a lot of concepts in that book that are cool just to look at, because it's really from a business perspective. It gives examples of, maybe bad employers who just simply look at their people as, you're just here to make the company a bunch of money, but then flipping that around to how like what Drew was bringing up, how can the company, and what you were talking about, benefit their lives, and in turn, how can they benefit the company, right? And I was really impressed by that book. It's kind of stood out to me as far as the career path is looking at people as how we can help them reach their true potential in life, or at least be an instrument in helping them do that. I'm not saying we can be that one that helps them achieve everything that they could achieve, but playing a role in that throughout their life and their growth progress.
But it's a partnership, right? If you give them the opportunity, it's always a give and take. If you give them the opportunity, now they've got to do their part, right? They do their part, we do our part. This is how this should move, right? But there's something I say to clients a lot is a lot of employers are kind of afraid of an employee who has a what's in it for me thought. I don't think you should be afraid of that. I think actually you should embrace it. Shouldn't everyone have a what's in it for me? If I'm going to work somewhere, I clearly want something, right? And if it's just money, that's a little bit hard to really get anywhere in a productive relationship, right? So to really get anywhere as an employer, I think you need to be willing to ask the question, what's in it for you? What are you looking for? Because unfortunately, lots of companies have a lot of turnover because they never ask that question, and they don't understand what that person's really looking for out of their lives. Whether it's, I think buying a home or raising a family and those things. It's if we'll ask that, we can keep them longer, and that's better for all of us. It's better for them. It's better for us.
Love that.
I think one of the important things that we do as a company, and anybody should do really, is that wherever we come into our employees' lives on their journey, that by the time they're done with us, that they've been benefited in some way. Whether it's, a short time that we get to work together or a long time. But it made me think our technician D and his wife Sarah have the best family. They're phenomenal people. And we have our Christmas parties where all the kids get to come. And I've almost watched all of his kids grow up. His oldest daughter came up to me at the Christmas party and was like, Michelle, can you believe we've been doing this, for 9 years, and she'll be 10. I'm like, yeah, we've been doing this your whole life. It's just really cool. So it's cool to be a part in any way of something like that for somebody.
Can we talk a little bit about what was our favorite part about the week? about the training. I can go first and start on mine, but I really love the concept, and even I just love talking to the guys about training your replacement. Like, I think it's because it makes people so uncomfortable, right? I think that's my favorite part of it, right? So how uncomfortable does that make people? Like, hey, you need to train this guy to teach him everything that you know so he can take your position. And they're like, oh, whoa, hold on a minute. That's not cool. I'm not trying to do that at all. People, their egos get in the way of success, right? When realistically, all that means is that if you train him to do exactly what you need to do, you can move forward in your career. And then that basically opens a door in front of you by bringing him into the same room as you are. So, I think that's really powerful, and there's a lot of ways to try to implement that with the guys, and I think that's a huge message to them too as well. It's something that we talked about over the week that really kind of sat with me. What about you, Richard? What are you?
I don't know. There's a lot. I had a notebook full of notes.
I know I had so much. I had a ton. Yeah.
I think the thing that stuck out to me, because I'm like Michelle. I love the community. I love living here. I always tell everybody it's a quirky place, but I wouldn't change it. I love the people. I don't know that you'll go anywhere in the world and find better people than the people who live here. And but just the ability to take what we do and make it more uniform. So what Jasen already brought this up, but the structure, right? Being as a company, getting to the point where we have the structure in place that the clients get the same service every time, no matter who goes to their home, no matter what it is, right? That they don't have to worry about, hey, I can refer this friend over, and no matter who comes to my house, I'm going to get the same level of service. And because that's important to me. I love when people have a good experience working with us, and I want everybody to be able to enjoy that same level of service. And we all, on Wednesday mornings, we get to read those 5-star reviews, and man, I love doing that. I love the feeling it gives everybody of just going out and working hard and then getting that feedback on doing a good job.
I think one of the bigger ones on mine is, it's kind of a little bit of each one of yours, is one was, Jasen, you said, stay uncomfortable. Get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yep. Get comfortable being uncomfortable.
It's one of those, as technicians, right? And even comfort advisors and anything we do, it's human nature to get complacent. And when complacency sets in, you kind of get lazy. And in our industry, it's ever evolving, and it doesn't matter what seat you're in on the bus, something's always changing. There's always something new, something to do better, fine-tune processes like what you were talking about. And so for me, and with some of the guys that I've talked to on the service side, that really hit, because it is true. Technology is always changing, especially the equipment we're putting in. We can't get comfortable, because if we get comfortable, we stop learning. Now we can't serve our customers like we need to, because we don't know what we're working on. You know what I mean? I thought that was really good, and it's one of those, you hear it often, but sometimes it always takes somebody that's not in the office Monday through Friday all the time to say something, and that pisses me off too, Jasen, because some of the stuff you're talking about, I'm like, man, that was so cool. I didn't understand that he was talking about that. And I'm like, we literally went over that same morning
Before he walked in.
You just need to say it in the southern drawl.
I don't have enough draw time. I spent 7 years in the South, but apparently I lost that accent.
No, it's got to be, you get from ages 5 to 10. That's where you get it at.
Yeah,
right there.
Right. Yeah, I got y'all, but apparently that doesn't fly.
See, you didn't go all the way to yin, so you got to go to yins, and then you're on a different level. Yeah. You got to.
Yeah,
can't teach that.
No, that's one. That's learned. Yeah, that's.
I think for me, it was probably more the format this year, right? So this being a third year, the first couple of years, it was Top Gun class, right? And Top Gun's a very structured class. It is what it is. And really hits a lot more, I believe, on the soft skills. And then this year, the way we changed up the format, I'm a technical guy. I love anything all technical, right? And so to be able to give some of that technical training along with some of the soft skills training, for me this year, I think that was it, right? I was talking with these guys, and I've got a way of teaching a class, and I've been to a few other classes and seen some other ways, right? And so my way doesn't resonate with every one of our guys. right? And so you bring in your way of saying the same exact thing. The results are the same at the end of the day, but it's just it hits other people, right? And so in my training, when I'm doing the guys, and I try and implement some of those different aspects or different perspectives that I've come across over the years to try and help bring that home, right? When Drew says, well, I've talked to you guys about this for months now, and then Jason comes in and it's, oh, I understand it, right? Right, and it's literally just
It's frustrating.
yeah, and so, you know, that I enjoyed that where the guys got some of that technical side where they, you know, I think obviously they're hungry for the technical side, and to be able to bring that in this year, I thought that was great.
That's a lot of fun.
My favorite thing from this whole week, top had to be the helicopter analogy that you gave.
Yep. For an installation. Yep.
Oh, that was so cool. Referring to, like, okay, you two technicians are the ones putting this helicopter together and you're the pilot. And, you know, how you're working and how methodical you are in your structure, how confident does that pilot feel now to fly the helicopter you've put together? And then the example of, okay, you technicians are a little bit sloppy, kind of running all over the place, and you're the pilot now, you walk in, how comfortable are you? And I think just everyone's mind just went, whoa. You know, just that visual of when we're in a home, how we're working, how structured we are, sends a message. And so as the client, you know, when you see that, how comfortable are you with the job that's being done? That was hands down, that was super cool. Loved that.
Working people have a hard time seeing how those things impact the client. They really do. And we don't mean to do it, right? I've grown up in this. I was like that at one point myself, right? I'm like, what does that matter? You know, how I'm dressed and, you know, if I have my tools strolled over, what does that matter, right? I'm a mechanic. I'm a technician, you know. So I had a hard time my day seeing that, right? So that one is a big one, really understanding how your client's reacting to that.
I think another one too, like, and Richard touched on it, was making sure that experience the customer gets is consistent. And it doesn't matter, right? Each technician an installer has their own personality, which is great. But that experience the customer gets from start to finish is something that is so important to us, because we want to make sure that they get that 5-star experience every time. Doesn't matter who shows up to their door. You know, so I think that was another one. Again, we've touched on it, but it's always a great reminder when it comes, especially from you, Jason, to the guys, because it hits that different perspective. And I know it always resonates, like Richard said, that experience is so important, you know, and if we falter, we know about it, and then we can improve and work on it. But it's getting that baseline and that consistency is always something that takes work constantly. And we always
never arrive.
No,
you don't, and you might as well just accept that you never arrive. It's always going to be, you know, you've got to keep moving forward. You have to.
Mm-hmm.
I want to hear Jason's favorite part of the whole week.
Oh, that's tough.
The installers, no doubt.
I did it all, so I mean, you know, I love every minute of it. I mean, why wouldn't I like it?
No, that doesn't count.
I'm going to be honest. I already actually mentioned it. You know, I go a lot of different places, and one of the things about this industry, my industry, HVAC, electrical, refrigeration, plumbing, the trades, you know, is really and truly the public doesn't understand the heart that most of us have. We are a really good industry across the country. But even that being said, it doesn't mean that all of them have the culture that this company does. So I'm gonna be honest, the number one thing for me, I was being my third year coming out here, I travel a lot. Y'all know that we talk about a lot of these things, and I love what I do. But no two trips are going to be the same, right? I go some places where there's known difficulties where it's a little more stressful, you know, and we're working on things maybe a little more foundational. But I'm just being honest with you, I was excited to come out here. I enjoy being out here with you all. Y'all treat me awesome. You'll treat me like I'm part of your team, which is I love, because that's what I try to do as a coach and a trainer. Is I really want to be a part of your team, you know, and when I get to come to a place where I'm anxious to go there, and I know that's because of the culture and the people that you've worked so hard to build, that's exciting to me. It is. It's very enjoyable from what I get to do, because it's not always that way. And that's not knocking the ones that don't have it yet. They're working on it. Everyone's going to be at a different stage of this. I had my own business, and I can assure you the first few years of mine, you know, it wouldn't have been very inviting to walk through that door. Okay. It wasn't pretty. It's just stressful. but to see you all where you're at and just the environment and the family atmosphere, and like I said, that true servant's heart throughout the entire company, that's my favorite part. I mean, I literally, I told my wife, a trip like this, they get exhausting. It's a lot. My wife was talking to my wife and she was like, oh, you're going to be tired when you get back. I was like, this one, I will not be as tired as normal because I look forward to going here. I enjoy being here. And it's because y'all have such a strong culture. So I appreciate every one of y'all for that. It is a difference when you get to come into an environment like this.
I thought he was going to say us, but
No.
I lost that.
No, it's all
Nothing at all.
I do drink.
Yeah.
That's a tremendous compliment. So.
Yeah,
It's a compliment to all of you. Included the bearded one over there. The other bearded one.
He's the
one
big-
with the gray beard.
The big
right.
baby of the group.
right.
Yeah.
And then Jason will be back in September too. So
You're gonna draw an
Hopefully,
elk. Come
yeah.
draw an elk
Yeah.
tag.
I'm gonna draw out.
I hope
That
so.
elk tag.
That'd be awesome.
You're going to go with all of us, right? It's going to be a hot mess.
Yeah.
It's going to be fantastic.
That'll make it fun. What the heck? Why
If I
not?
don't draw out, I'm never putting it ever again.
That's your first time. You
I
can't
know
get
I'm gonna be
always draw
so
out
let
first
down.
time.
Like I'm way up here with it right now, and if this doesn't come through, I'm gonna be so sad. So
Well, I think it might be worthwhile. We've mentioned that you're from BDR and that you're a trainer and you have 30 years in the industry, but maybe just for those that don't know you, give us your story.
Okay. I'll do a quick synopsis of it, because y'all know it can be kind of lengthy, right? So we won't get the full-blown coaching version of it, right? That where I use some of those points. But yeah, so I'm a head coach and trainer with BDR. I've been working with Robbins now for a few years. I do coaching where I work directly with clients all over the country with anything from growing their business, solving problems in their business, recruiting, training, you name it, nothing's off the table, right? You all know that. We do specific training classes as well. I have been in the industry for longer than I sometimes it slips and I do say it out loud. I still feel like I'm too young to have done it that long, but yes, I started in the industry, but I started young. I started at 14, not from a family business, just a neighbor, and in the early 90s, and started in a sheet metal shop. And I was blessed with this journey in the industry that led me. I've worked, I literally had to start at the bottom, which y'all have seen me coach and train. I love it when you learn some of those basic fundamental things. We've talked about how some of the things today with technology, we skip some of that knowledge that we get to learn when we get to do those things from the bottom. And there's so much value in that. It's hard to see sometimes, but for me in my situation in life, I just latched onto it. And I started in that sheet metal shop, started building ductwork, started going doing installations. I was 14 years old, and I just went from there. I went to another company and kept progressing. I mentioned that I was in the military. I did join the military in my early 20s. My wife and I both joined pre 9/11 and did a few years of those things after they hit the towers on 9/11, and that really gave me a lot of perspective on the world, right, from a small community in Missouri. And but I loved this industry, and I came back to it with a new drive and a new vision. And I ended up buying the business that I'd worked for years, and working on that business, built it into a very successful business and sold it because I met BDR along the way, which y'all know that story. I met Barry Burnett at a training class in roughly 2008, and which helped me really turn my business into what I wanted to turn it into. And then that set my sights on being here doing this someday, really helping people with their businesses. And but it all goes very foundational for me, that full cycle of things, which you all know from me. I'm very passionate, and talking about the recruiting is a big thing for me because I always view my career, every step of it was blessings that got handed to me along the way and kind of mapped out. But I always look back, and my favorite thing in doing this is my belief that if a business will build a future for that young man, or young woman who's sweeping floors, picking up scrap metal, right, at the very bottom, at the very beginning of their career, and if we can build something that'll create a future for them that they can actually see and get into and move forward, how powerful that is, and how that's really the engine of business success. It truly is. They're your engine. They're going to move you forward. They're your future. You're their future. And so my passion for what I do comes from that. It comes from my journey. And I want to help more young men and young women all over the country have that opportunity because they don't even realize it exists in our industry. And like I said, this industry is phenomenal, right? It's challenging, but that's part of what makes it enjoyable. I mean, if it was who the heck wants to do something boring, right? I don't, so there's so many moving parts, but you get to serve people, right? You get to serve people. And sometimes it's in a moment when it's a stressful time. Lots of times it is, it's the middle of summer and their air conditioner's out, but we get to be the ones to help resolve that problem. And I just remember all through my career just how rewarding that is. And so I love this industry. Yeah, but I've been around it a long time. I think this year is coming up on 31 years this June of being in this industry. And I know I look way too.
There it goes again. There it slipped right out.
I might as well own it, right? I did shave the gray beard off though, because I got tired of that. I was tired of owning it quite that much. Actually, I don't think it's gray anymore. I'm pretty sure it's white. But I'd rather keep it shaved so I don't ever know again. But very passionate about this industry. And like I said, companies like this, you'll have a lot of young people in your business, and it just, being able to talk to them and work with them at the beginning of their careers and see the excitement. That would be another aspect of what I loved about being here this week is, man, seeing those young men get excited is just, that's the best right there. It's awesome. So I appreciate y'all having me out this week. It's been a blast. I look forward to doing more of it in the future.
Well, for sure. Yeah. Or when the room died, when we got too technical, we went way too down.
Yeah, and everybody's like,
they were confused 15 minutes ago.
Yeah. Hey, you're the one who kept asking questions, though. You did that. You were like, you were pushing the limit, and you kept, and I'd already told you I'll go as far as you want me to go, and you just kept going. I'm like, okay, now then Steve's like, no, that's enough.
We gotta
shut this down.
He was sitting in the back. I couldn't see the facial expressions.
No, he got the kibosh on that. He was done.
Start diving into info, Pete. Wait a minute.
No, he was done. And I was like, okay, I told you I'd keep going as long as you kept feeding it to me. When we start getting into formulas and stuff like that, it's like everybody's heads are like, oh, what?
Yeah. I think that brings us to the spot in the podcast. Final thoughts. Anything anybody wants to throw in before we wrap it up?
I think, going around some of our lives, of training your replacement, right, and some of that stuff. When I'd first come into the industry, nobody was willing to teach you anything, right? And then it just seemed like that was the culture of the industry. Everybody was afraid of helping you out. And, then we met in BDR, and just a lot of people along the way that, it really changed my perspective of, this is a massive industry, and there's a lot of people out there that are just so willing to help educate and learn and stuff like that. And so when we finally saw that and grasped that, I think that's truly when I fell in love with the industry. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love working with my hands. I no matter what I was doing, I was going to be working with my hands. But when we finally broke through that barrier of, hey, there's a lot of people out there that are willing to help you, to share their stories, to help you get to the next level, to help you learn how to run a business. I know how to do heating and air conditioning, but running a business, Michelle's great. But to help you got to build that foundation before you can start building up. And so there's people out there that help you figure that out, right? I mean, we didn't go to college. We didn't, we don't have an MBA in running business, any of that stuff. But, once we figured that out and then figured out, hey, this is what we need to provide for our people, is that educational piece on it. And really that's been great for us. And, it's a big help to BDR and our suppliers and stuff like that have helped us introduce us to those types of individuals. It's been great.
I think just overall, at least from my perspective, I do agree that I think the culture is better than ever right now. Just within our company, I think that a lot of that has to do with the processes. And I don't know, I haven't pinpoint, is that just is that just the way I see it, or if that's the way, if it's across the board. I feel like that's with all the guys in general, but it makes me, I'm with you, Jason, it makes me way more excited to do what I do, because everything is just, it's nice when life goes smoothly. Like that's a good thing. And I think, I think that as a whole, as a company, I think we're finally starting to get there where we have a solid foundation down, and not that we haven't in the past, but to me, it just feels like it's going much more smooth, and we're starting to really get there as far as culture wise now. And then, rolling out the career path, it I'll be honest with you, I was pretty nervous, right? It adds a lot to our plate as managers too, is when we did that. So it adds a lot to my plate and it adds a lot to the guys' plate, but when you stand back and you look at it and you look at the bigger picture, yeah, there's more work to be done, and it's a little more tedious, and you got to check boxes, and you got to do this, and you got to do that, but the rewards on the backside of that are just, I mean, they're massive. And if you could get the guys to see that, hey man, you can be here for 15 years and make a good living for your family and do what you need to do and have some freedom financially, right? I think that's huge, right? If we find the right people and we get them in the right spots and we get them on board with this whole career path, I think it's really going to make a huge difference. So
yeah, I mean, just to piggy off of that, just each year that you've come, Jason, we've talked about it, not biting off more than we can chew out initially, but doing the little things to implement, just the little things like you were talking about, Skylar, as far as structures and making sure everything's implemented, and has made a huge difference, and I think, not to say what we were doing before wasn't correct, but adding structure has definitely helped reduce chaos. And, even adding the career path to where it is exciting to see guys hungry. And it's like, okay, when's the next test date? When's this coming up? When's this going to go down? And it's fun and exciting because all you want to do is just dump more fuel on that fire for those guys. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, you want to do this and stay late and study? Dude, yeah, let's do it. I'll help you. Let's get you there. Let's do that. And not to say we haven't had that before, but man, it's all on a roadmap now. When those guys get to see that roadmap and now they know what they can do. So huge credit to Steve and Michelle and all the work they put in for the career path, and Richard and Skylar and Jason for you kind of getting that, rolling for us, man. I feel like that's just going to be a huge game changer for us in this next year, and I'm excited to see what it pans out for everybody, and I'm excited to just have a big old gasoline, baby, and just keep dumping it on a fire, man, to keep fueling these guys. So
you're gonna burn the building down.
That's all right. That's what we got insurance.
Yeah,
controlled burn. That's right.
Yeah, controlled burn. I've never seen a controlled burn with gasoline before.
There was this one time, and I'll talk to you about it later. That's what we claimed it as, was a controlled burn. But no, that's what I'm excited for, just to see and just implement little things at a time that you bring every time. And each time you come in, I get something different each time we're in a different, place at that time. And, it's like reading a piece of scripture in your life. You read it 10 years ago to compare reading it now, man, you get something different out of it every time. So huge shout out to you, even though I don't like it when you come, because same stuff every time, and the guys get more excited, and I can't do that. You know what I mean? I don't know. I got to start listening to Southern stuff to get that draw.
Try to work on that Southern draw, my friend.
Put the gas can down. Okay, so you should start with that.
I'm going to start recording Jason, and then just that way I can get that draw back.
Play it.
I think for me, one of the things that I've loved, especially about this industry, is it's all heart. Just the trades. I mean, every industry, right? There's a lot of good people, but this one it's just good, hardworking people that are just trying to do some good stuff, and it comes from that. It's all heart. I loved how you mentioned at the beginning with the younger generation that they just want to go to work and then go live their life. Mm-hmm. And I think the structure that we've been talking about, the career path, allows them to do that. Like, what do I have to do? Oh, this and this, and then cool, I can go live my life and provide and, have a life. And so it's exciting because the client is getting served in a way they need to. The employee is getting served. The company has it's a great place to work and a great culture. So that heart of what the trades are shines through. So I love it. Thank you for being here.
I appreciate y'all having me out. It's been a great week. I've enjoyed it. Like I said, I was looking forward to it. It's always fun to see how this progresses over the years, and then getting to come back out and see everybody face to face. I think the career paths, and just I don't even know if it's just the career paths. I think y'all are just at a spot where you're so aware of where you're going, right? And the strength of that culture, and it's that driving force. It's that engine, that Drew's poured gas into, and the cool thing is going to be, I'll just tell you, a kind of a piece of that perspective. What'll happen is here in the next year or 2 years, so on and so forth, what you're going to have is a team of people that's going to be driving this business forward. And that concept of train your replacement, as y'all know, it's to help propel everyone forward, so that they see that, building others up propels them forward. That's the whole concept of it. And as y'all start to do this, what you're going to see is they're going to be coming in and they're going to be pushing this whole thing ahead. There'll be a point. I'd be willing to bet right now, there's going to be a point where you're going to almost like Steve did yesterday on the technical stuff. You're going to be like, whoa, wait a second now. There's going to be a point. I really do, because you're going to see them get motivated. You're going to see them really start moving forward, and just you might prepare yourselves a little bit for that. Because you're going to. They're going to be pushing you forward, and they're going to challenge you. They're going to challenge you, not in a negative way, but they're going to challenge you to move yourselves forward as leaders, to stay out in front of them, to lead them and guide them, and continue to create more room for them to move their careers forward. Don't let it stall. Okay, so start opening your minds now for what that's going to look like for you as this moves forward. Okay, sometimes that means, people moving to higher progression. Sometimes that's people just kind of moving aside and letting some other people take the reins and do jobs within the company, right? So you're going to hit, so take that, be comfortable being uncomfortable, take it seriously, but maybe you'll need to start thinking about where that takes you. Because sometimes at this level as managers, you can kind of get complacent and thinking you're kind of where you're going to be. That may not be how it's going to be in the next few years. Okay? Because they're going to really push you in a positive way. So prepare yourselves.
Well, I think that's great advice to end on. You got anything else?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Well, we just, on behalf of all of us and our whole team, want to thank you for being here. And thank you for your story, always sharing that. I heard it a bunch of times, but it never gets old. So I think it never gets old just because it does show that kids that maybe don't want to go to college, they don't want to, fit into the norm, they don't feel like they fit in, they can take the trades and they can take HVAC and find a successful life in that. And so I think that's what inspires me every time I hear your story. So anyway, on behalf of us, appreciate you being here, and we'll wrap this one up for today. And Wahoo to Zia Media for producing this. Appreciate you guys.
Robbins out.
Robbins.
Robbins.
Just small mic,